are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 199 of the College Loop Podcast. I am Dylan Larck, your boy Tank on Twitter. And I'm here to talk to y'all today about the latest in Auburn athletics, as well as get a little more broad in the SEC sphere, because today I'm going to rank I'm going to power rank the SEC coaches 1 through 16, no longer 14 teams, because Texas and Oklahoma have, of course, joined the SEC ranks going into this upcoming year and for many years to come. And who knows who else will be added to the SEC later on. It could be Miami, Florida State. Who knows? It could be a wild ride in just a few years. And I think the easiest thing for me to do is probably go from 1 to 16. But then that kind of makes it a little more of a mystery about who's going to be where. Especially because number 1 on my list, I'll go ahead and just get right into it. Number 1 is Kirby Smart. And I'm not going to keep his name up there very long because it kind of irks me as an Auburn fan. It's Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart is the best coach in college football, 2-time national champion. He's been there, I believe, 3 times in total. Kirby Smart is the best coach in college football. And it's without saying that if you don't agree with that, I don't think you're either like that much of a hater or you don't pay attention to the sport well enough, because Kirby Smart is the best coach in college football as we speak. So I don't think I have to explain myself too much on why Kirby Smart's the number 1. But I'm not going to get too far into it. I would say my number 2 guy, probably going to irk a lot of people, but hear me out before. I'm basing this going into the season, not based on the season, because it's kind of hard to base it on the season when it has not been played yet. My number 2 is Kalen DeBoer. And I say that strictly because he's the reigning coach of the year. He took Washington to the national championship last year. He is there based off of success of last year. And I mean, he does have a more talented team. I mean, the Saban team's and talent level is still there. They did lose players to the portal, but everyone loses players to the portal. The players that they lost were not like, outside of Isaiah Bond and Caleb Downs, I don't think they lost like this excruciating amount of talent that would harm an Alabama team. So yeah, I have Kalen DeBoer at 2. And I think my reasoning is sound and why he's there. But I do know that you haven't seen him coach yet, so it's kind of just he's there until he proves not to be there. Because a lot of these guys, I mean, going after Kirby, 2 through I want to say 2 through 6 or 2 through 7 really kind of fall in that line of anyone can go anywhere. Because my number 3 guy is Steve Sarkisian. He's been at Texas for about 3 years now. 3 or 4, one of the two. Hosts a 25-14 record at the University of Texas. He's on the right path. He's gotten better every year. He's got one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Quinn Ewers. He has a very hyped up backup in Arch Manning. Texas is a team that can compete in the SEC. Whenever I do my favorites and like pick my SEC champions, Texas is a team I'm going to be highly considering. There's like a little bowl of like 3 or 4 teams that I'm really going to be looking at going into the SEC championship when I start making predictions for all of that. Texas is that team that I'm really looking forward to watching play, especially in their first year in the SEC. They definitely got a more favorable schedule than Oklahoma did. Oklahoma apparently made some people mad on their way to the Southeastern Conference, but Sarkisian, I think his steady improvement and finally getting to the playoffs, finally giving people a reason to say Texas is back, because that's kind of that's the meme, horns down always, but Texas is on their way back. And it's going to happen sooner rather than later. People are going to start understanding that Texas is in fact back. That's because it's what Sarkisian has done while he's been in Arlington. So yeah, right now, Steve Sarkisian in my 3 spot in the SEC. Now at number 4, another person who might make some people mad, not because I ranked him high, but probably because I'm just going to say his name. Lane Kiffin is my number 4 spot. My 4th best coach in the SEC. 34-15 at Ole Miss has turned Ole Miss into a respectable football program, something they haven't had since Hugh Freeze was there, and then before then, who knows? Well, I guess Eli Manning would have been that last most recent one, but Lane Kiffin, what he's been able to do in the portal, is outstanding. And it's something that a lot of coaches are going to be jealous of, and rightfully so, because it's Lane Kiffin, and he's just killing in the portal every single year. And he'll lose people to the portal, and then he just gets the better guys. He'll just upgrade them and get them right back. And I had an argument in my head to put Lane Kiffin in that 3 spot above Sark, but I think you see Lane Kiffin. I don't say underperform, but Lane Kiffin's not gotten to the pinnacle of where he can get. He's not gotten to the SEC championship. He's not beaten Saban. I guess he'll never beat Saban in that regard. That's just the factor of that is he's not won those big games yet, but he's won enough to verify himself in a top spot in the SEC. So yeah, right now I have Lane Kiffin at my 4th spot. Coming in number 5, rounding out the top 5, I have Brian Kelly at LSU. In only 2 years, 20-7 record for Brian Kelly at LSU. Got a Heisman winner, got an SEC West title. Has done a very good job getting, retaining and acquiring talent in the South, something that we all collectively assumed that he'd struggle at greatly when it came to moving from an independent with Notre Dame to the SEC with LSU. I think that he's always been a top coach in the college football realm, and I think he's gonna continue to reach there. And of course, there will be some downfalls. We don't know what this team's gonna look like without Jaden Daniels. It's a Garrett Nussmeier team now, which is gonna be probably more of a pass heavy attack rather than the dual threat ability that Jaden Daniels possessed. But Brian Kelly right now, my 5 spot. Coming in number 6, the guy I'm very excited to watch as he's just turns this team into a powerhouse potentially is, of course, Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri. Currently 28-21 Missouri, but I mean, that's probably don't look at the record because last year they were a really, really, really good team. And I've talked about Missouri several times. I've told many people that I think Missouri could be a team that could be an SEC championship like dark horse when it comes down to it. Eli is like the perfect coagulation. He's a nerd who loves the sport, and he's a guy that the players want to play for. He's got guys like brought in guys like Luther Burden. He brought in a great recruiting class. He retained Brady Cook. He's just turning Missouri into a respectable program that we had not seen in so long since that 2014 year where they got to their last SEC East title, and it just kind of fell off after that. The Barry Odom years were just terrible, and finally you're seeing a semblance of Missouri can compete in the SEC. Missouri can do this, and that's strictly because Eli Drinkwitz has turned Missouri into a program that you can look at and be like, dang, I don't want to play Missouri. I hate that Auburn has to travel to Columbia, Missouri, and has to play Mizzou. So that's going to be a lot of fun in that game because I always loved whenever Auburn played Missouri. Usually, it meant Auburn gets to win, gets a nice little free win. I mean, the SEC championship in 2013 was a fun one. Watching Trey Mason rush for 300, 400 yards, wherever it was. But now it's going to be it's going to be really tough. And that's because Eli Drinkwitz has turned it into a very, very good program. Number 7, getting to the halfway point, Josh Heupel at my 7th spot. Had a great year 2 years ago and had a great end of the year 3 years ago. Last year kind of fell off a little bit. That's kind of why he's in the 7th spot right now. 27-12 record at Tennessee. I think most of it comes from the fact that he didn't have a guy who could get it done at quarterback. And of course, there were a lot of injuries that came in. But Heupel's a great recruiter. He is an absolutely great recruiter, turning Tennessee into a team that was kind of in the ashes for the better part of 2 decades. So watching Josh Heupel kind of turn Tennessee into this very, very fun offense to watch. Nico Iamaleava is going to be a lot of fun to watch in his second year. And I think that looking at it, Heupel still had a pretty decent year. I mean, winning record is a winning record, but I think we really saw the worst of Josh Heupel last year. We saw the worst of a Josh Heupel-led team last year. The SEC is going to be very good. I don't think anyone can look at the SEC and think it's going to be a worse conference than it was last year, and especially with Texas and Oklahoma coming in, it's going to be way better than it was and way more competitive. And a lot of that's going to be because of the guys that I've listed in the top 7, and of course that rounds out with Josh Heupel, but a guy who I think could be also a little bit of a dark horse in terms of what he did at a smaller school. Number 8, I have Mike Elko, the former Duke head coach, now turned Texas A&M back. After he was a defensive coordinator just a few years back, turned A&M to a defensive powerhouse, went to Duke. He just went off at Duke. Duke was actually a team that football teams were afraid to play. Not basketball. Football teams were afraid to play Duke because they had the tenacious defense led by Mike Elko. And A&M has the money and facilities and the NIL to get guys that Elko can turn into these high caliber players again. And I don't know if he'll do it in year 1. But year 2, year 3 of the Elko era, I mean, A&M is going to be a very dangerous team. I think that you're going to see a coach who is willing to do what it takes to win, unlike A&M's previous coach. And Elko has just been that dude thus far. And he's still young in his head coaching career. And he's already a guy that has built up that level of respect from just the community alone and just what he was able to do at Duke. Coming in at number 9, I have Coach Hugh Freeze at my number 9 spot. This is going to be kind of confusing if you're an Oklahoma fan because Brent Venables is right behind him. So I'll kind of get to it in a second. And I'll kind of go through why I have Hugh Freeze up. Hugh Freeze going into year 2. The team that he's built kind of gives him the edge to me over Venables. I just think that when I look at Hugh Freeze, I am so excited of what the season's going to go towards. And if you were to call me biased, you can. My coach, the coach that I'm rooting for, is in the 9 spot out of 14 teams. So call me biased if you want to. It'd be a weird thing to do. But yeah, I think just off of potential of what the season could look like alone and a potential upsets that Auburn can get in the second year of the Hugh Freeze era, I think Hugh Freeze has earned a spot in the top 10 coaches, and I have him right above. When I talking about Brent Venables, I'm going to tick off a lot of Oklahoma fans if they're watching. If this finds its way in Norman, I will not apologize for my take. I'm sorry if you're offended. I am just a man who has opinions. I think that Brent Venables is not that good of a head coach. Granted, he did win a lot of games last year. He won 10 games last year. I just don't think that those games were won because Brent Venables was Oklahoma's coach. I think Oklahoma is a program to where any coach should be, any semblance of a decent coach should be able to go in and win 10 or more games. That's just how I feel. I saw Brent Venables have that losing season 2 years ago with an Oklahoma team. Oklahoma's a blue blood level program in the country, and the fall from grace, they picked themselves back up, but the Big 12 was very weak last year. Texas was clearly the best team, and of course, Oklahoma beat Texas, and that was like a whole other can of worms. But Oklahoma didn't make any strides after that to get better and to go into the Big 12 championship. So, and of course, they lost the last bedlam that we know of, but. I think when it comes to picking a coach to run your program, I think Hugh Freeze has proven himself as a better coach than Brent Venables has proven himself yet. So, and that's just why I have Hugh Freeze my number 9 spot. Coming in at 11, and if you've seen my hot seat list, you pretty much know how this list is how it's gonna round out. 11, I have Mark Stoops. Been in Kentucky for a long time, 77-65 record at Kentucky. Made them another respectable basketball school turned football school a little bit for a little bit. Had a couple of very good seasons while he is at Kentucky. I think the Stoops era is slowly coming to an end. I don't think it's because that Kentucky is like hates him or thinks it's like falling off. I think it's plateaued. I think we've seen the best that Mark Stoops has to offer at Kentucky, and of course, he brings in talent. He brings in transfer portal guys that look like they're going to be all stars, and he got Brock Vandegrift coming in from Georgia, and that's a huge deal. But I don't know. I think Mark Stoops is one of those guys when you're looking at this year on the hot seat. In terms of just if you don't win this amount of games, we gotta let you go. We gotta cut ties. We want to win more than 7-ish games a year. And that's just kind of the thing I feel about Stoops is I just think that Kentucky just is never going to get any better than what they have done with Stoops, and I don't think under Stoops are going to ever be a bad team. I think they'll consistently be in the 6 to 8 win range, but it'd be a rare occurrence for them to hit 9 or 10. So that's why I have Stoops at 11. Coming at 12, I have Billy Napier, currently 11-14 record at Florida in his 2 years there. Billy Napier has done a very good job of doing less with more. Florida is a very, very good program. Very easy to recruit to Florida. If you play NCAA 14, it's a cheat code to recruit in Florida. And he just hasn't been winning. He just isn't doing what needs to be done as a Florida coach. I mean, even Jim McElwain went to the SEC East championship or won the SEC East. And of course Sam Mullen did too. But looking at Billy Napier, I'm just the recruiting is there, but I don't know if the coaching is there. And I just think that if something doesn't change this year, if they don't win 7, I don't even want to say 7, if they don't win 8 games with the talent that they acquired, I don't think Billy Napier will be the head coach very long at the University of Florida. I think he'll probably be looking for a job back in the Sun Belt, looking for Geo5 jobs or a very low ranked P5 job. P4 job. The P5 no longer exists. But yeah, I have Billy Napier at my 12 spot. Coming at 13, I have Shane Beamer, the players coach. Everyone on South Carolina loves Shane Beamer. The internet loves Shane Beamer. I love Shane Beamer. I wish he would have gave my boy a chance to start, but Lenore Sellers has indeed won the South Carolina quarterback battle. So, yep, not too happy about that, but something I did in fact see coming. But yeah, Shane Beamer, I think that he is a very good position coach because of how he hypes up the team around him. I just don't know if he is a guy who will ever bring South Carolina back to what they felt with Spurrier. And because right now he's 2018 record. He's gotten a couple of upset wins. I mean, the Tennessee one in 2022 is like a huge deal. And I mean, it was. And you've gotten your peaks. You've gotten your very deep canyons that he has suffered. I just think that Shane Beamer, what he excels in as a player's coach, he also faults in as a scheme guy. I don't think Shane Beamer will be the coach of South Carolina for very long. I don't know how long the social media experiment will continue to keep him around, because at some point you got to start having some respect for your team on the field. And I'm not saying he doesn't, but I'm more saying that South Carolina is a team that can recruit well. I mean, look at Clemson; they recruit very well in the state, in the state of South Carolina. Beamer's not doing that as well, and you're not seeing it kind of perform on the field as much. So that's what kind of have Shane Beamer my 13th spot. Coming in at 14, and of course this could also be, I could flip flop these two around like nobody's business. Right now, my 14 is Sam Pittman. Sam Pittman will not be the head coach of Arkansas during the 2025 season. I would be very shocked if by week 6 he is still the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. I just don't know why he is still the coach. I think if I would have been in charge of Arkansas last year, I would have let Pittman go. Arkansas is a team that could and has been at the top of the SEC before in like recent memory to me. And of course they had the 8-win season and 9-win, whatever it was, under Pittman in year one. And I think they're still riding that high. I think that's why they didn't let him go. And they're still riding the high of what Sam Pittman did do for the team when he first got there. So yeah, right now Sam Pittman is my 14. Definitely could be 15. Definitely could be 16. It could definitely just depend. Of course, I'll update this list as I go throughout the season. Sam Pittman will probably be voided out by the time that they get ran through in Jordan Hare Stadium during week 4. But yeah, Sam Pittman at my 14 spot. Coming in at 15, I have Larck, 9-27 at Vanderbilt. It's hard to win at Vanderbilt. It's very hard to win at Vanderbilt. The only guy who could ever do it was James Franklin, and he sadly left Vanderbilt to go to Penn State. And I didn't want to say underperform, but definitely plateau a little bit at Penn State. Definitely could have done something with Vanderbilt. But yeah, 9-27 record. I don't dislike what Larck can do as a coach. I think he is a very solid coach. I think that I'm giving him a bad rap because of the fact that he will never be a winning coach at Vanderbilt. I think that we have seen the best of Vanderbilt the past few years. And I'm saying that as someone who loves Vanderbilt. I would, if you could tell me Vanderbilt would go 12-0 during a year, I would sign up for that right away. I want to see Vanderbilt win games like that. But I just don't know. I just don't think the talent's there anymore. I think that whenever they have a talented player, they end up leaving. Just looking at the guys last year that left, Will Shepherd is gone. Guys like that, just they show out of Vanderbilt and they leave. And you see that a lot in the sport. But right now, 15 is Larck. At the last spot in my SEC rankings, I have Jeff Lebby. This was a shoe-in spot. I mean, when I made the list, I went to 1 to 16. I put 1 to Kirby Smart. I put 16 to Jeff Lebby, and then I just kind of filled in the rest with how I thought it went. Jeff Lebby is at 16 strictly because one thing alone, he is a brand new head coach. He has never been the head coach of a collegiate program before, and now he is stepping up in the SEC. In a tough spot because he is going to be the next offensive mind. Mississippi State has had a great run of offensive minds from Den Mullen and Mike Leach, and you got to see those two really excel. And of course, there's a guy. There's like in between. I can't remember his name from Penn State. He was in between Dan Mullen and Mike Leach. I can't remember who he was. I can see his face. I can see his face plain as day. Cannot tell you his name off the top of my head. But yeah, Jeff Lebby at my number 16 spot. So that's my list. If you have any thoughts, let me know in the comment section below or in the chat. And I'll make sure to go back and read through it and see if you say anything that's interesting. I might bring it up on the next show because I always love the interaction that we always have with each other in the comment section and the chats as well. But yeah, that's my list. I should have made a graphic for it to be like all like over there or whatever, just so everyone can see it as I'm talking about it. But yeah. Yeah, so with that, I did a little something for y'all. But before we get to the rest of the football news, I'm gonna go ahead and show it off because I'm so proud of it. So instead of doing the normal ad read for the shirt and the hat, which you should definitely just go ahead and go click the links in the description below and go buy because they're only $25 a piece. I decided to make a little commercial for y'all that I will be using throughout the remainder of our time here at the College Loop, which will be forever. The College Loop forever, as it said. So yeah, here's this commercial. If y'all love it, it's hard. I don't think anyone's gonna hate it. So with that, let's roll the tape. Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat. Only $25 on thewarreport.com, plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program. I love it. I did such a good job with that. I'm going to just pat myself on the back real quick for making that. It took me 20 minutes. Very proud of that. So with that, we're going to go right back into the Auburn news that has happened over the past 24 hours. So starting off with NFL news, throwing it out there for any Tennessee Titans fans and Auburn fans, Mr. Alex Barker out there. Marlon Davidson has agreed to terms with the Tennessee Titans, joining former teammate Roger McCreary in Nashville. So huge shout to Marlon Davidson. Hopefully he finally gets a shot to play. He's kind of been a journeyman to this point in his career. Decommitment news: Hollis Davidson, 3-star tight end, has decommitted from the Auburn Tigers. One of those first 2025 commits that Auburn saw. One of two, former tight ends that were they helped Auburn get in the top 10. Actually knocked Auburn out of the top 10 once he decommitted, but that has since changed since the addition of another guy who I'll bring up in just a second. Transfer portal news: Auburn picked up the commitment of Akron offensive tackle Ronan Chambers, who stands at a 6'6", 290 pounds, has 1 year of eligibility remaining, originally committed to the Tulane Green Wave, and has since flipped over to the Auburn Tigers. I kind of looking at how he fits into the scheme. He is a tackle. I do think he's going to fit in, probably play a little bit of guard because he is a huge dude. So he's listed as a tackle. Definitely going to be playing a little bit of guard, maybe a lot of bit of guard, just so you don't have two Percy Lewises on the sides. I don't know how likely it is for him to start right away, if at all. I think that Auburn has a pretty solid O-line as it stands with Percy Lewis and Dylan Wade and Connor Liu and Jeremiah Wright and Xavier Miller. I don't know if Ronan Chambers really fits into a starting role, but definitely a guy who's going to be a rotational piece right away. Especially if he goes in during training camp and just absolutely balls out in the fall. So size wise, he's a guy to lick your chops at. And he's going to be very, very good. He was very solid for Akron from what I've seen. Very smart player and a veteran player as a whole. And then last bit of recruiting news: Auburn picked up a commitment late last night, meaning I was still up when this happened at 10 o'clock. They picked up the commitment of 4-star linebacker Tyler Lockhart, who, after Auburn lost Hollis Davidson and knocked him out of the top 10, this commitment put Auburn right back in it. So number 4 overall player in the state of Mississippi, out of Winona High School in Winona, Mississippi. 6'3", 200 pounds. Dude is a stud. Hence why he is ranked like he is. He is just a hard-hitting linebacker. Feeds in open space. He is just that good, and everything about him is just screams Auburn linebacker. He's going to be so fun to watch. And of course, that kind of begs for him to stay committed. I mean, you're never going to keep everybody, but it is nice that when Auburn loses one guy, they are ready to pick up one more. And I think it works out perfectly. Auburn, I think this is Auburn's first linebacker class, not counting edge rushers. Yeah, so first linebacker in the class of 2025. Huge pickup. Huge pickup. Now leaves Auburn with only 3 stars, and then of course 7 4 stars. And believe me, some of these guys are going to be 5 stars. Blake Autry, Jacayla Falk, Jordan Crawford very well could be one. And Tyler Lockhart could end up playing himself into one as well, and Devin Williams as well. A lot of these guys could end up playing as 5 stars, playing themselves into 5 stars because they're very high 4 stars as it stands. So huge shout out to all those players who are joining the Auburn Tigers. Huge shout out to Marlon Davidson for signing with the Tennessee Titans, and wish you the best of luck, Hollis Davidson, wherever you may go. Unless, of course, it is in the Birmingham or Athens area of the country. And so with that, going to go ahead and move on to Diamond Sports, where we got Auburn Softball as they are prepared to take on Georgia in their first game of the SEC tournament on day 2 of the SEC tournament on May 8th. That's Wednesday at 4 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Georgia currently stands with a 38-15 record, 12-12 in the SEC. Auburn, of course, currently stands with a 27-18-1 record, 9-15 in the SEC. First time they've actually seen the Georgia Bulldogs all season long. I was kind of shocked when I was reading through that. I was trying to see, how they did in the last one. I completely blanked that they hadn't even played Georgia this year. So Georgia on the year again, batting a 2.97 as a team. Pitching staff is giving up a 2.51 ERA. This is a very solid team, and a team that very matches up very well with Auburn. They've hit 78 bombs on the year as opposed to Auburn's 40. So it's going to be heavily relied on the pitching staff to get Auburn in this game, keep them in this game, and lock down Georgia. Maddie Pinta, Shelby Lowe, AB, who just had an awesome game against Alabama to secure that much needed series win. Auburn is on fire right now. You saw that the series win was just huge. Auburn had 2 games where they just lit it up, and then, of course, the first game they kind of gave up. They gave up that lead a little bit, but never wavered and got the win overall. This is going to come down to, of course, the arms of the pitching staff, and as well as if something goes awry, you gotta play catch up and you gotta hit the ball. And that's as simple as I can make that. You gotta hit the ball. So watching Georgia, I just there's a lot of important factors for Auburn on the plate. I mean, Anna Wohlers has been just batting out of her mind as of late with a 309. Ice Tresvik has been batting very well. You got to find someone else to rely on to get those runs outside of KK McCrary and Amelia Leck. That you got to find other hitters that can get the ball in the outfield and get on base. And of course, you're missing out on that. I mean, as the season ends, Auburn's going to be hiring a coach sooner rather than later, who can maintain and retain power hitters, because this is what Auburn's been missing this year. The real only power hitter Auburn's had has been KK McCrary and Amelia Leck, and that's pretty much been it. But even then, sometimes they just call bunts for some reason, which is just don't even get me started. But Auburn has to play a complete game from here on out. They're already in a regional. And I think that's very true in that fact. They are going to be playing more softball after the SEC tournament. But it would be nice to see to see them compete at the highest levels of the SEC. Of course, as soon as they leave from playing Georgia, they have to go back the next day and play LSU, who's one of the top seeds. Another team that Auburn has seen once already this year, and took care of business in Baton Rouge. And of course, they're going to be waiting, licking their chops for Auburn to get revenge on them. So I'm gonna do something a little heinous. By that I mean I'm gonna throw on the bug glasses. And yes, I know I look goofy. If you think I look goofy, shut up. But I am going to pick Auburn to win against Georgia. I think it'll be very, very close. These teams are very, very close in terms of talent. Georgia just seems to be locked down at the plate. I think Auburn has the bullpen to do that. Maddie Pinta is her, and I think everyone can agree with me on that. She's Maddie Pinta. Sorry about it. I think Auburn wins close. Auburn wins close and moves on to the next round. Moves on to play some more softball at Jane B. Moore Field, because, of course, if you were unaware, that is where the SEC tournament will be taking place this year for Auburn softball, or just for softball in general. But with that, I'll go ahead and move on to Auburn baseball. And with that, I took off the bugging glasses for everybody at home who is listening to the show rather than watching. And I do recommend watching the show as well, just to get a look at the bugging glasses if you've not seen them already. Auburn baseball. You had a little pause for dramatic effect. We did not get to talk about their last game against Ole Miss, where they won off of a wait for it. Walk off of a wild pitch, bringing in Fernandez into the onto the home plate. What is just a wild win that Auburn got. Huge win. Sorry, I just said Fernandez. I got two players confused with each other. Hernandez. There we go. Huge win for Auburn. Much needed, especially confidence wise, because the sweeps always hurt. But going into the night, they'll be playing Georgia Tech at 6:00 p.m. in Atlanta, Georgia, where they've already played Georgia Tech once this year, beat them 12-8, and that just kind of bodes well for Auburn in terms of they've already won this game. They've won against this team before, but I think Georgia Tech has gotten a lot better since Auburn last saw them. Auburn has still kind of wavered back and forth on what kind of team they want to be. Georgia Tech on the year, of course, has I was reading about the RBIs as home runs. It has 78 home runs. They are batting .311 as a team. Auburn still just struggling overall as a team. They're getting hits. They're getting on base. They're scoring runs, but they're also giving up a lot of runs as well. Batting .269 as a team, which isn't great at all. But pitching wise, I mean, 5.99 as a team, as opposed to Georgia Tech, who is of course giving up a 5.98. So I mean, pretty balanced team if you look at it like that. Which I mean, I am right now. So yeah, very balanced game. Georgia Tech just better at the plate than Auburn is. Just a home run standpoint, and I would like Auburn to get this win. I would very much like them to get this win. But every time I pick Auburn to win in baseball, they disappoint me every single time. So for karma's sake, I'm going to pick Georgia Tech to win, just to kind of jinx everything. Just I'm so disappointed in the baseball team this year. And of course they have two more series left until they go to Hoover, and of course they have Sanford in between. But Hoover, always known as Auburn's kryptonite. Auburn will be going into the offseason looking for a new pitching coach. Fingers crossed for that. I'm trying to wishful thinking that into the cosmos as we speak. But yeah, I'm just not too thrilled about watching the remainder of the season for Auburn baseball. It's just been a rough season. And if they turn around and they beat Missouri, I think out of Missouri and Alabama, they are going to get one series win. I refuse to believe that they go the entire season without getting one series win. And that might just be a jinx in and of itself, but I just find it hard to believe. So with that does it for the show today. Leave your thoughts below on what you thought of my rankings list. Of course, I'll be making the graphic and posting it so everyone else can make fun of me for how dumb and stupid I am, for why I pick this person over that person, or whatever I call it stupid for these days. But of course, I'm Dylan Larck, @boytank on Twitter, and of course, find my Instagram as well at Dylan Larck, DYLARCK. And of course, you can find me right here on the College Loop Podcast. We should like, comment, and subscribe. Again, leave your thoughts for everything we've talked about today. Leave your prediction for Auburn Baseball and Auburn Softball. And of course, you know what? Where do you think Auburn recruiting will finish off in 2025? And of course, if you're tired of watching the show, I get it. You can get tired of my face. It won't hurt my feelings whatsoever. You can also go check out the audio show as well on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and of course, Amazon Music. And of course, follow us on social medias as well on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the works. All those at The College Loop. And don't forget to go get your own Feeling Loopy t-shirt and, of course, the College Loop hat, which are on the Warport shop right now. Of course, only $25. But, of course, with all that being said, War Eagle, and this has been the College Loop Podcast. As I look for the outro, and there it is. College Loop Podcast.